All right, everybody. Thanks again for your willingness to be here. I appreciate you. We're right back in the saddle. That's it. Oh, hush. So we appreciate you guys being here. So thank you guys. Happy Friday to you wherever you are in this brutal world. It is Friday. And of course, it's a happy Friday. Any Friday is a good Friday. You know, that's in my opinion. Any day is a good Friday. And you see behind me, it's a spooky background. I'm telling the computer to hush because the computer decided to interrupt me when I was trying to make my introductions. It's like, well, that's rude. All right. So it's Friday. Before we get into the spooky, scary stuff, let's get into the business aspects of it first, if you don't mind. Mr. Producer, roll that footage.
Fans of Bishop James Long, the renowned exorcist and paranormal expert on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Now you can carry his wisdom with you. Our Bishop James Long collection features blessed apparel such as St. Benedict hats and tees, as well as home items to protect and inspire. Elevate your spiritual journey. Go to kgradb.com/shop and discover the Bishop James Long merch today.
All right, everybody. So for those of you who just saw that, here's what I want everybody to do. Everybody, please do us a favor. And I want you to go to that shop, kgradb.com. Moderators, if you can put that on TikTok, that would be wonderful. kgrad as in dog, b as in bicycle.com. All right. What you need to do then is click on the shop link. And then you'll see my name. Very simple. You click on my name. Now, we have a show page there. And as most of you know who follow, know that we are sponsoring the MKS Kids Foundation. It is an orphanage in Uganda. They are a nonprofit. They get no government assistance at all. No, I mean, they truly need our help. Thank you. So please understand that when you purchase these items, 100% of the profits that would go to me, we as a community, we are donating that to the MKS Kids Foundation, an organization. So again, so thank you, Jax. So again, it's KGRD. Yes, Mr. Producer. Oh, let me turn you up.
Also, as of Monday, since you have the approval, you gave us the approval.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be making these candles for Bible study and night prayer.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. So now, so that will be on the KGREDB radio.com.
In the shop. So
excellent. Well, let me keep that up there. So guys, so when are we putting these candles up?
As of this coming Monday, they'll be available.
So this Monday, they are going to put, are these scented candles?
Yes.
Yes, they are. Unfortunately, I won't be able to bless them because they're not coming from me. They're coming from KGREDB radio, but that's okay. I can teach you guys how to, pray over the candles. That's not a big deal at all. But some of they're beautiful and they are going to be scented. And some of the writing is, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He restoreth my soul" is another one. "I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever, and my cup runneth over." So those are some of the things that's going to be on the candles. And you said that's going to be on Monday?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you there, Mr. Producer. Appreciate you. Wow. So there you go, guys. And again, the fact that we are partnering with the MKS Kids Foundation, I think that's really wonderful. So make sure you go to kgradb.com. Click on the shop link. All right, click on the shop link. And you got your mug. Great, AJ. And then click on my name. And so let's help them out. I am trying to get everything ready for the next book that I have. It's a paranormal investigator kind of a guide. So I finished that book. I'm now doing the final touches on that, and then I'll be uploading that, and I'll be sending that. We'll get that put out in the publisher, and then 100% of that will go directly to 100% of that will go, of course, to the MKS Kids Foundation. So I think with that, we're going to be doing well. Certainly helping them out. I think that's the beautiful thing about this. Now, if you want to go to my website because you're really bored, have nothing else better to do, you can go to bishopjameslong.com. When I have the paranormal book up and running, by the way, there are 2 books that Judy Ann is in the process of editing for me. It is a demonology book, and 2, the book of Revelation. And so those are completed. And so Judy Ann is going to be putting she's a professional editor. That's what she does for a living. And so she's going to be editing that for us. And that's going to be really exciting. Once that gets all done, we'll set that out and it'll be on its way. There we go. Better, Starla, better. And also, if you want to go to the church's website, that's usocc.org. Okay, usocc.org. Want to remind everybody that tonight we will have, of course, night prayer, as we always do. It will be 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, listen very carefully. If you want us to pray for your prayer petition, then if you're on TikTok, you've got to go to my profile right now. And you'll see the video that says, for tonight's night prayer, place your prayer petitions in the comments. But you got to do that now. Make sure you put your first name in there and just keep it, as limited as you possibly can. But make sure you have that in. Make sure you have that in by 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight for tonight's night prayer. For everybody else, all you got to do is go to usocc.org. And it says to become a parishioner, click here. It takes you to the Book to the Face group page. And then you will see Judy Ann. She posts the picture for today. It says, place your prayer petitions in the comments. Just please also, if you would, place them only in one place. Just either in TikTok or a Book to the Face. All right, fair enough? Fair enough. So I want to talk briefly about being, a little bit out of town. Obviously, but still, I had my show on Friday. I don't like missing. I just don't like missing. Okay, and Mr. Producer is saying also, please keep an eye on the weather if you live in the Carolinas and Georgia, Monday through Wednesday. Mr. Producer, by the way, Mr. Producer, you want to tell them? He's really good predicting the weather.
Yeah, I've been studying weather since I was a child. It started on my dad's boat, of course. That's how I got into it. But I've been monitoring it. It's still, it's complicated, but the major models, the Euro and the American, is showing a system affecting. Right now, it looks like South Carolina, but the Carolinas and even Georgia need to pay attention to their weather Monday evening into Tuesday. They really should pay attention to their weather. It could be a Cat 1 hurricane. It could be a tropical storm. It may be nothing, but I'm just saying people should be aware that there is a possibility of a system affecting that area Monday, possibly Tuesday, and even into Wednesday if it stalls.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. Thank you, Mr. Producer. We appreciate that.
Thoughts and prayers go out to all those folks too.
Yeah. So Monday through Wednesday, if you're in those areas, you need to keep an eye out because we're always trying to make sure everybody is fine. That's the most important thing. Okay, folks. So let's. Tonight is, of course, our paranormal Friday night. But yeah, make sure you keep an eye out Monday through Wednesday. If you're in those areas, if you're living in the Carolinas and Georgia, Monday through Wednesday, keep an eye out for the weather. It's always important. And we appreciate Mr. Producer letting people know. It may not affect you, but it affects a lot of people who are living in those areas. Okay. So one last time, kgradb.com. KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. Click on the shop link and click my name and purchase those products, guys. Just purchase them. Don't forget Monday, they'll have candles up there, really beautiful candles, and make sure you purchase them as well. 100% of the profit that goes to me, we're going to donate to the MKS Kids Foundation. All right. So again, kgradb.com. Click on shop and my name. All right. And don't forget tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have night prayer. And it will air right here on all the other social media platforms and on TikTok. All right. So I want to briefly talk about a little bit about my out of town adventure. And then we're going to get into some poltergeist cases that are really bone chilling that many people may have never heard of before. So when I made it known that I was going to be in California, because I was going to the Queen Mary, which is it's absolutely phenomenal. The Queen Mary ship is beautiful. Yes, Mr. Producer is live on TikTok. Mr. Producer, put your TikTok, Sky Bill Watcher, or I think that's what, or Bill Skywatcher. Mr. Producer, put your TikTok name in the comments. That way we can let everybody know he is on TikTok. Yep. So he does a lot of he has a nice setup that looks in the sky. There you go. Yep. Bill Skywatcher. There it is, everybody. Thank you there, Bill. Bill Skywatcher, if you're on TikTok. Yeah. So make sure you follow him. Yeah, follow him. Okay. So when I made the announcement that I was going to go to the Queen Mary and stay in the most haunted room, B340, and we were going to work on a documentary. We're working on that. Obviously, we'll be working on that soon. A team contacted me. First of all, the Queen Mary was phenomenal. Was just amazing. And it was so interesting because I'm just the type of I live in Kentucky. We're very welcoming. And, I had the door open in my room, B340, and people would come in and they would slowly approach the window and look inside. I'm like, well, come on in. And they really didn't know how to handle that, because someone was like, well, come on into the room, because it's very expensive. The room is not cheap. Most people who rent that room don't open it up and say, come on in. It doesn't matter. And we appreciate Judy Ann taking care of that, because Judy Ann will serve obviously as executive producer for that. But it was like, yeah, come on in. And that was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people. But a team in California that was relatively new contacted me and informed me that they were working a case. And the leader of the team knew, and he admitted, he said, we are in over our heads. Now, they truly believed it was demonic. Of course, I'm skeptical by nature, because I don't believe everything is demonic. And I think most of the time you can debunk the activity. So I said, well, just send me some preliminary findings, whatever you've found so far, just send them to me. And he did. Now, I am eventually going to, not tonight, because I have to get permission from the homeowners, and we're waiting for that to happen. I never, ever share information unless it's approved by the homeowners. But they capture some growls, loud bangings, like someone had taken a sledgehammer and hit on the outside of this house. I mean, you could clearly hear it. One person got scratched. And so they asked if I would be willing to since I'm in LA, to help them with this case. It's no problem. So I did the Queen Mary. And then after that, it was just kind of vacation time. But that Saturday, what I chose to do is go to this community, this little group. I met the homeowners. They were terrified. I mean, they were terrified. And what bothered me is, of course, no clergy was willing to help them, because they didn't belong to any type of church community. And because of that, there's no donation. So no clergy was interested in helping. So at that time, I had already had plenty of information by the team that verified that this was demonic. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm walking into a demonic case. And I knew that anyway. When I drove into the house, I felt that deep, oppressive feeling just right around the corner. It was that powerful. And I knew at that moment, okay, I'd already known this was demonic, but when I was, turning that lane, I was like, okay, this doesn't feel right. So, we have to always try to find out what happened. And I'll talk about that when we have permission to talk more openly about the case. But so when I pulled in, so I can talk about my experience, but when I pulled into the house, there was a top floor, and there was a big window on the bottom floor, and then the top floor. Both of them had kind of big windows, and on the top floor, there was something bad about that room. I mean, I could feel it. And I didn't know anything about this. So when I pulled into the house, the team came out, and they were kind of shaken up. I could tell. And so I asked them. I said, I'm getting ready to perform the minor rite of exorcism, and I need some assistance. If you cannot be here with me, that's fine. But I need someone to assist, because when you have the sensor, and because they had everything. I asked them, you got to have this, and they had it all. So I can't hold all that stuff plus the book. And so the team lead and the assistant said, yeah, we'll both help. So I spoke to the homeowners before we started. I asked them if they wanted to be a part of it. Absolutely not. They were terrified. I mean, they were physically shaking. And they just said, please, whatever you need. They're very kind, and just that clergy was willing to help. So I told them, I said, well, do you have any family that you could stay with in the next 24 hours? And they did. So they stayed away from the family. They gave us the whole run of the house. During the minor rite of exorcism, so we had a digital recorder that always plays. And we play what's called the Litany of the Saints. So, St. Michael, pray for us. St. Raphael, pray for us. St. Mary, pray for us. St. Joseph, pray for us. And during the Litany of the Saints, the investigator had, of course, a digital recorder. They played it back. Number one, you hear a growl. You also hear a very clear, I think it's clear, EVP that says, don't listen. It was very violent. So we started in the basement. What was interesting is that room that I saw when I pulled up, that room was the most active room, because I told them, don't tell me the most active room. I want to be able to walk in and see if I can have that feeling. And I knew upstairs was bad. And upstairs was the most violent activity. So we started in the basement, and we worked our way up to the room. When we were walking upstairs to the top floor, the team lead, the founder of the paranormal, let out this scream, and he was right beside me. So, I needed him right beside me, obviously, to hold the pail so I can bless it with the holy water. He was right there with me, and he was holding it. I saw him. So, in other words, there's a reason why I'm stressing this. He let out this loud scream. I looked over to him to my right, and you could clearly see it was almost like a knife had been taken to his skin and just sliced. Thankfully, it was more of a superficial cut rather than one that needed stitches, but it bled. I mean, it was, you could clearly see this. And he was wearing short sleeve. So before we even started, I always check. That's just something that I check. If someone is with me, I just, briefly glance, at the arms to make sure that people are not doing this for attention, because some do. There was nothing. He had no scars. He had no scratches, nothing. And he was holding the pail. And when we were walking upstairs, he screamed, and he said it was like fire that just cut right into him. And I saw it. And he started bleeding. So we had to bandage him up. And he said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do it. So I had him, and the rest of the team. By the way, they're no longer doing paranormal investigations. But I finished. So I said, okay, you guys need to go out and I'll just take the pail and I'll put it upstairs in the room, and I'll finish this. And so they were outside, and he was in tears. It frightened him that much. He was with the team, and he was in tears. And not so much because of the pain, but because they were so terrified. And so I went upstairs, and I continued the minor rite of exorcism. I heard bangs and growls and the smell of a rotten flesh. So that took about 30 minutes or so upstairs. Completed that. Definitely felt extreme pain in the back. So it was attacking, because I have stenosis and degenerative disc disease. So it was causing spasms in my back and in my neck. So I knew then, okay, we're kind of moving forward here, but I continued. Now, thankfully, so I came outside and everything seemed to be settled. Everything seemed to be settled. And I told the team, I have to have mass here, and you have to, you need to be in here with me to celebrate mass. So they went in, I had mass, they received the Blessed Sacrament with no issues. I blessed all of them, obviously have blessings. And the team, I spoke to the team the other day, and yesterday actually. So the homeowners are no longer experiencing any activity. They said it was just very peaceful, very calm, which that's the point. But the team was so shaken by this that they are no longer paranormal investigating. They're selling all of their equipment. They want nothing to do with paranormal investigating out. This really affected them. I mean, this really affected them in a severe way. And he even told me he was always like the type of person that wanted to experience. I said, this is not something you do because you want to experience it. This is something you do because you sacrifice for it. You sacrifice in this ministry to perform these rites, to help families. And you need to understand that when you get involved in these cases, there are consequences. And this is not entertainment hour. You can't turn off the television. So you when you're watching a movie, you're like, okay, this is scary. I'm going to, flip the channel. You can't flip the channel here. And you're in the presence. You have to finish the rite. So why would I be afraid? No. I don't fear demons. I am concerned for this team. He was really shaken. I mean, I think that he was more of a skeptic, and I understand that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong. I'm a skeptic. But when he experienced that cut, and he was bleeding, you could see he was bleeding pretty good. I think that obviously shook him out of this desire to want to do these cases. And I think that affected him in a way that, it was a life-changing moment for him. Yeah, so as far as how it happened, we believe there were teenage kids involved. And I think based on, it's like pulling teeth sometimes because they don't want to admit that they did something. And they got pretty heavily involved in with their friends and curses and placing curses, thinking that nothing will come of it. There were some people at school that they didn't particularly like. And so they decided that they were going to place a curse on these people that were kind of bullies. And I think that really, to me, that was the only common denominator that I saw that perhaps maybe given that invitation, the family was not involved in general in heavy black magic or any of that stuff, Ouija boards, nothing like that at all. They're very devout Christians. But one of the teenagers was a little bit, got a little bit involved with some activity that he shouldn't have. And I think that's real. And what was interesting, here's what also is very fascinating. I have found that the majority of times when you're working cases where people place curses on others, it usually, not all the time, it's usually a young teenage girl for whatever reason that's being bullied or harassed or something. It's very rare that I run across cases where it's a young teenage boy. But in this case, it was. And he had some friends that I don't think were the best influence. And I think that's really where it started. But this family experienced, and I can't go into great detail because the family hasn't released permission. So I'm always kind. But they had an animal. They had a dog that was affected violently by the situation. I will tell you this, the dog was so affected, meaning that it was targeted, that the dog wouldn't go into the house anymore. And this was a house dog. So this was not an outside dog. the every time the family tried to get the dog to go inside the house, it would whimper. I mean, it would whimper horribly. And so they eventually had to leave the dog in the mother-in-law or the mother, and leave the dog over there because the dog wouldn't go inside. So they don't know how long the dog had been targeted, but clearly there was something, and there was no indicator at all, nothing, that these people did any type of were evil to this dog at all. This dog was clearly pampered, extremely pampered, well taken care of, deeply loved. And so I saw no red signs or flags rather that would indicate that they did anything to this dog. But based on what I saw and experienced, the dog, by the way, after the minor rite was over, the dog went back into the house. So after the blessing was done, after the mass was done, the dog was able to go. It was, the family told me it was a little hesitant, but then went into the living room and, sniffing around, and then went into the dining room. And then it just started kind of like the tail was wagging like crazy. And it was like, it felt like it was at home. These guys, here's the deal. I know people often tell me that they want experience. They want to experience it. They just want to see it. I'm telling you now, be careful with what you wish for. Because this team was really affected on a deep, deep psychological level. The team founder is still struggling. I mean, terrified. And they're terrified because, they have a family, and they're scared that, being involved in this case could have consequences. So I did, of course, I blessed them and taught them the epiphany of the doors, the blessing of the doors, chalking of the doors. And of course, if they need help, then, I'll always be there to help them. But that's the thing you got to understand when you're working these cases. This is not entertainment hour. And I understand the skepticism. I get it. I'm skeptical. So when people tell me that, they had the chair being thrown across the room, unless I see it, I don't believe it. Because that's just my nature. I'm very skeptical. But in these cases, and for the record, and again, I want to make this very clear. And this is why I say this all the time to people, not to brag, but to explain. So those of you who follow me know that I have a doctorate of ministry. I have 3 master degrees. I used to serve as a college dean, an academic dean. I don't get paid for this ministry. I don't charge. And I don't receive a stipend. I don't receive a salary from the church. I do this ministry 100% free. 100% free. And I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've never charged 1 penny. Matter of fact, I have paid out of my own pocket to get to these people's homes. And here's why I say this. I say it because there's no ulterior motives. Well, you do it for fame. If I do it for fame, you do fame to make money. That's the whole point of fame, to make money. Well, if I don't charge, then there is no money to make. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I can understand if I charge $5,000 for a minor rite of exorcism, then people could say, aha, that's why you're doing it. And they would have a valid argument. But I don't charge. So fame doesn't mean anything to me. It's irrelevant. Because regardless if people know who Bishop James Long is or not, I still would do this ministry. Irregardless. I do this because of what I've seen and what I know. So I tell you that with a person with a master's, with a doctorate and 3 master degrees from accredited regional academic institutions, if I didn't know that possession exists, I would do something else with my time. I certainly wouldn't go in debt helping people for free. So all the skeptics out there saying, oh, Bishop Long, you do it for fame. Again, you do fame to make money. If I don't charge, there's no money to make. And the money that I'm making, we're donating to the MKS Kids Foundation, which is an orphanage in Uganda. So you don't make money by giving it away. Just a little bit of a clue. Possession exists. Whether people like it or not. Demonic infestation exists. whether people like it or not. And I tell people, that I don't receive a salary. I don't receive a stipend. I receive no compensation from the church whatsoever. And I only tell you this because I promise you, if I had one doubt in my mind that possession didn't exist or demons don't exist, if I had one doubt, I would not go in debt going to people's homes. And I certainly wouldn't spend as much time as I do in this ministry. And I'm not asking, and I appreciate the accolade. I'm not looking for accolades, but what I'm explaining, there are no other ulterior motives other than for me to help people. That's it. So when you work a case that is demonic, understand there are serious consequences. And sometimes the consequences can be unbelievably challenging, not only on a physical level. Well, yeah, and again, it's just common sense. There's nothing that I benefit. I don't benefit financial in any way, shape, form, or fashion to help people for free. I go in debt. But I do this because I know what I've seen. And I can't deny it. And there's a lot of people out there that's trying to teach you and tell you that demons don't exist. They're incorrect. They're incorrect. I am sorry. I'm not trying to be rude. They are wrong. Because demons most certainly exist. Violent activity exists. People are terrified. Possession exists, whether people like it or not. I know it makes people uncomfortable, but the truth is the truth. And so I want to talk about a couple of cases, poltergeist cases. So sit back, maybe turn the lights down, enjoy your cup of beverage of, even if you like apple juice or whatever it is that you enjoy. And I want to talk about some poltergeist cases. Now, poltergeist means noisy ghost. It is not a ghost at all. It is negative energy that an individual is omitting, and it causes supernatural activity. For example, you're walking down the street and someone is walking towards you. You don't know that person, but you know you don't want to know that person. That's energy. That's all energy. Or a person can walk in a room, not say a word, and just their energy just draws people to them. Positive energy. The number one form of destruction with poltergeist is fire. In every case that I've worked with poltergeist, fire was always an issue. Electrical appliances causing shortage, going out, sparking, the flames causing fires. Fire is the number one form. And also light bulbs popping. But tonight I want to tell you a story that is not only terrifying, but true. A story that shocked an entire town, that made its way into newspapers across Canada, and that still to this very day has no explanation. Yep, Lisa. All right, so hang tight with your questions. Let me get into this. Here we go. Remember, friends, this isn't folklore. This is just a campfire tale. This is documented historical account of a young woman named Esther Cox, who lived in a quiet little town in Nova Scotia in the late 1800s. What happened to Esther would make her one of the most famous victims of violent poltergeist activity in the world. Her ordeal would last for years. She would be tormented, terrorized, and used as a plaything by something unseen. In my opinion, I think this started out as poltergeist, but I think it also turned into demonic. Understand this. When you're dealing with demonic activity does not need poltergeist activity to manifest. Poltergeist activity is, for example, the light bulbs popping or something occurring, but there is no intent behind it. It is activity. Plates being thrown, it is activity. With a demonic, there's intent behind it. You are the object or the target in which the object is being thrown. And right now, TikTok, we have chat on for everyone. but I will turn sub chat on in a heartbeat if it gets rude. I'm just giving you a heads up now. So let's set the stage. Thank you, guys. Picture the town, Amherst, Nova Scotia, in the year 1878. It was a small settlement, perched in the wind-swept Maritimes, where winters were long and brutal. The nights came early, and the streets were lined with modest wooden houses. There were blacksmiths, shoemakers, shopkeepers. The clip-clop of horses on cobblestone echoed, through the town. The air smelled of wood smoke. It was a God-fearing place. Like most small towns of the time, people believed in hard work, in family, in the church. Thank you. But behind closed doors, people also whispered about things not spoken of on Sundays. Ghost stories, the devil, strange happenings that could not be explained. And remember, this was the height of the spiritualist movement across North America and Europe. Seances were being held in candlelit parlors. Mediums claimed they could, speak with the dead, which I believe in psychic mediums. Newspapers carried stories of haunted houses, rapping spirits, possessions. So when strange things began to happen in Amherst, people were ready to believe, and they were ready to be terrified. At the heart of this story is a young woman. Her name was Esther Cox, and she was just 18 years old, shy, quiet, pale-skinned, with brown hair, the kind of face that disappeared in the crowd. She lived with her married sister, Olive, and Olive's husband, Daniel, and Daniel Teed. The Teeds kept the crowded household. Esther's siblings lived there too, along with 2 children, making 7 or 8 people in a modest wooden home on Princess Street. It was noisy, full of life. Esther shared a bed with her sister Jenny, crammed into a small room upstairs, and life was simple. They worked hard, went to church, and did their best just to get by. But that summer of 1878, something happened to Esther that cracked her world open like a broken glass. So Esther began spending time with a shoemaker named Bob McNeil. Thank you. At first, she thought he was a suitor, someone who might eventually become her husband. But one night, McNeil lured her away under false pretenses. And when she resisted his advances, he pulled out a weapon. And he pressed the barrel on her head and threatened to unalive her. By some miracle, she escaped, physically unharmed. But the terror of that night left scars. People described her afterwards as changed, nervous, pale, eyes haunted. And she carried that fear with her back into the Teed household. She tried to go on with her life, but very soon, her nights were filled with something worse than nightmares. So one August evening, Esther and her sister Jenny went to bed as usual. The lamps were blown out. The house fell quiet. The stillness of the maritime night settled in. Sometime in the dark hours, Esther stirred. She thought she felt something shifting beneath her mattress. At first, she thought it was a mouse, but then the bed itself began to tremble. She sat up, her breath caught in her throat. The bed shuddered again, harder this time, as though like a giant invisible hand pressed down on it. Yep. And from the shadows came a sound. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was coming from the wall. Or was it the floor? It was underneath the bed. And Jenny sat bolt upright, clutching Esther's arm, and both sisters were frozen, eyes wide in the dark. They both heard it. And then with a loud crack, like a sound, like a wood splitting under an axe, the bed frame broke in two beneath them. They screamed, and the family rushed in, carrying lamps, searching the room. There was no intruder, no signs of anything at all, just a broken bed, splintered, as though from some impossible pressure. The sisters swore they hadn't touched it, and they swore that it felt as if something inside the bed was alive. And that, my friends, was just the beginning. So the next night, Esther climbed nervously into a different bed. She prayed that whatever had happened before was just her imagination. But as the lamps were blown out, the noises returned. This time, 3 knocks, 3 sharp raps from the wall beside her. She called for Jenny, who had just begun to drift to sleep, her sister, and Jenny listened wide-eyed, and then they both heard it again. Knock, knock, knock. Deliberate. So the girls screamed. Once again, the family ran into the room. But when the lamps were lit, there was nothing. Only Esther's pale face and her sister and the sound of her heart pounding in the silence. Well, thank you guys for the gifts. The family tried to comfort her, and they told her she was nervous, that her imagination was running away with her after the terrible encounter with McNeil. But deep down, they knew something was wrong. Because when the lamps went out again, knock, 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 the sounds came back. And guys, I'll get your questions after the presentations, okay? And soon it wasn't just Esther and Jenny hearing the strange noises. Daniel Teed himself, the head of the household, sat up one night determined to prove there was nothing unusual going on. He stayed awake as the girls went to bed. At first, the house was quiet. Suddenly, the headboard began to rattle as though invisible hands were shaking it, and he heard the knock, knock, knock. And the sound boomed from the walls aloud, and Daniel leapt to his feet, and his face went pale, and he admitted later it was no trick. Thank you. Something was in that room. It was not of this world. So neighbors were invited in, and they heard the rapping, and they saw the bed covers whip off Esther's body. They saw pillows thrown across the room by unseen hands. And every single time Esther tried to sleep, the disturbances grew worse. This is why I'm thinking in this case, we're going into demonic oppression. Demonic oppression will attack your intellect and will. So it begins to attack your sleep pattern. You become sleep deprived. It's trying to break down your will, make you at an incredible weakened state. So one night, as Jenny and Esther huddled together under their quilts, the bedclothes suddenly flew from the bed. Not slipped, not slid. They were ripped off and hurled into the corner of the room. The sisters obviously screamed, clutching each other as the blankets, were thrown onto the floor. And Jenny scrambled to gather them back, throwing them over her sister. But the moment she did, the unseen force ripped them away again. Neighbors who had come to watch shouted in shock. Some rushed forward trying to hold the bed down. It was no use. Something invisible and powerful was playing with them like toys. So by now, the Teed household was in chaos. They prayed, they wept, they begged Esther to tell them what she felt, what she saw. But Esther herself was too terrified to explain. She only knew this: whatever haunted their home had chosen her as a victim. She was the target, and was only getting started. So the disturbances inside the Teed household didn't fade. They grew, and each night seemed to bring something worse than before. So at first, it had only been sounds, knocking, scratching, rattling, the covers being thrown. But now it was Esther herself who began to suffer. So just imagine though, sitting at home in the dim lamp light, your family gathered close, all of you watching the young girl that you love, and suddenly before your very eyes, her skin begins to change. That's what the Teed family said. So they said Esther would grow feverish, her face flushed, bright red, her body would swell until her skin looked tight and burning. She gasped for breath, clawing at her throat at times, eyes bulging in terror, and then just as suddenly her body would collapse back to normal. So on one night, her entire body convulsed, jerking so violently, the bed rattled across the floor. Her cries echoed through the house, and then, with a sound like a loud bang, something boomed in the room. Everyone swore they heard it. The sound came from nowhere, yet it was so loud, neighbors rushed over there, convinced that a weapon had gone off inside the Teed home. And when they came in, they found Esther weeping, trembling, her family surrounding her. And from that moment on, everyone in Amherst knew something was happening in that house. So word then began to spread quickly. And hello, everybody. Welcome. I appreciate you all being here. We're talking about a really terrible poltergeist case that is based on a true story. But some people were whispering about Esther. You know, the shy one, the nervous one, the one who, after nearly being unalived by her suitor, now seemed haunted by something. And neighbors begged to come inside. And first, the Teeds resisted, ashamed, fearful. But as the attacks grew bolder, they allowed visitors. And at the top of the hour at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll do one more kind of commercial for our KGRADB radio family. So we'll do that in about 15 minutes. And so in the flickering glow of oil lamps, men and women from town sat in the parlor, crowded in the bedroom, watching, listening, waiting. And they swore to their dying days that what they saw was real. Listen to this. So the townspeople saw this. Knives leaping from the kitchen and plunging into the floor. Thank you. I have seen that before in a demonic case. A heavy bureau sliding across the room without human touch. A chair tipping over violently. No one was near it. One man shouted into the darkness, "If you are truly here, show yourself." Friends, and instantly 3 deafening knocks pounded from the wall. You understand that when you do this, you are inviting. That is very dangerous. The room erupted. Some people fled in terror. Others prayed out loud, clutching their Bibles. All of them knew that Esther was in the grip of something far beyond the natural world. Now, I want to remind everybody that our dear sister Tracy Ann, that is in here. There you go. I just pinned it. Oh, I couldn't pin it. Well, Sister Tracy Ann, she does our rosaries on TikTok, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe it's 6:30. Make sure you follow her. So, Sister Tracy Ann, if you could just put all the hours and dates and the time, and then we'll let everybody know about that. Okay? So, let's go back into this. So soon, the raps and knocks began to form answers. The family realized that the spirit, or whatever it was, could communicate. 1 knock for yes, 2 knocks for no. So they asked, "Are you the devil?" 1 knock. Yes. And they asked, "Do you intend to unalive Esther?" 1 rap. Yes. So the neighbors stared in horror, and Esther wept uncontrollably, obviously. Okay. There we go. For those of you, so Sister Tracy Ann has our rosary Monday through Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern on TikTok. Make sure you guys follow. I just pinned it on TikTok. Sister Tracy Ann. And Sister Tracy Ann, please put your TikTok name, your username also. That way I'll let everybody know. So from that night on, they all believe Esther was living under a horrible death sentence, delivered not by man, but by some unholy thing. And then came the fire. So one evening, Esther was sitting quietly in a chair, and Jenny was nearby. Okay, everybody, it's SR period Tracy Ann, TRACIANN .OSB. Tracy Ann, if you can put that in the chat on Book to the Face, please. Okay. So one evening, Esther was sitting quietly in a chair, and Jenny, her sister, was nearby. Suddenly, a bundle of cloth of Esther's feet burned into flames. The family saw it. They screamed, rushing to stamp it out. Esther leapt back, sobbing. Obviously that she hadn't touched it. And on another night, her bedding smoldered, caught fire just inches from her body. Yet Esther herself remained unburned. And it happened again and again. Tiny flames erupting out of nowhere, places where no lamp oil or candle had spilled. And the neighbors said there was no natural explanation. Some believed that the devil was trying to unalive her. Others said that she herself was cursed, carrying the fire inside her. There you go. For those of you on all the other social media platforms, please follow our sister Tracy Ann for our rosary. I'm very devoted to the Blessed Mother. And so that's there for you guys. So make sure you take advantage of that. Thank you very much. So there you go. You guys see it now right there on all the social media platforms. So the family began to fear that one night the entire house would go up in flames. And the invisible force grew crueler. Scratches appeared across Esther's skin. Long, angry welts that appeared before witnesses. She cried out in pain, swearing that she had not cut herself. And once letters appeared carved into her flesh, deep enough to bleed. The crowd saw this. Some fainted. Others insisted it was proof Esther belonged to the devil. And during her convulsions, her body would rise from the bed as though lifted by unseen hands. She would scream in voices that were not her own, a guttural, male, harsh. Witnesses claimed to hear whispers at her bedside, a deep voice that hissed, Esther, you are mine. The family tried to drown it out with prayer. They read scripture over her tears streaming down their faces, and the whispers came again. So the church in Amherst, the word spread like wildfire. The ministers of the local church could not ignore it. Some came to the house to see for themselves. A Baptist minister sat with Esther one evening, Bible in hand. At first, the room was quiet. Then the knocks began. And he demanded in the name of Christ that the spirit leave. The response, a long, violent pounding that shook the walls. The minister left, pale and shaken. Wouldn't go back. Another clergyman declared it was Esther's own fault, that her sin, her flirtations with men, had invited Satan into her life. And so people in town began to whisper that Esther was possessed. But others, including men of the cloth, admitted openly that they had no explanation for what they saw. Yeah, I know. So by now, Esther was despised as much as she was pitied. Some neighbors wanted nothing to do with her, fearing she carried a contagion of evil. And children crossed the street when she walked by. Merchants refused to even serve her. At night, she sat awake, afraid to close her eyes. The knocks, the scratches never stopped. Fires threatened to ignite beneath her. Thank you. She lived in constant dread. Her body bruised, burned, marked by something that no doctor could cure or explain. And the worst part, she knew that she could not escape, because wherever she went, the thing followed her. And the Great Amherst Mystery was no longer a family's private nightmare. It was a town-wide panic. It was about to draw the attention of the outside world. Now, this is where the outside world steps in. Investigators, journalists, finally Walter Hubble, the man who turned Esther's ordeal into the most famous ghost story of the Canadian history. So by now, the Teed family lived in a state of terror. Every night, Esther cried out. Every night, knocks, whispers filled the rooms. Every night, The neighbors wondered if the devil himself had come to Amherst. Well, we'll get there, Jane. The local gossip had spread beyond Nova Scotia. Newspapers from Halifax to Boston carried headlines about the haunted girl of Amherst. Soon, strangers were arriving at the little town. Curious thrill seekers, skeptics, ministers, even scientists, all hoping to witness the phenomenon for themselves. And many of them would leave changed forever. Now, one of the earliest witnesses was Dr. Edwin Clay. He was a respected physician. Clay came to the house one evening, determined to explain the strange illness of Esther. He examined her as she writhed in pain on her bed, her skin breaking out in blotches. He checked her pulse, tried to calm her, and then right in front of him, the pillow under Esther's head suddenly burst into flames. So Clay leapt back, nearly falling over. Ginny screamed. The family rushed to smother the fire. The doctor stood frozen, staring at the smoldering cloth. And later he admitted, "I can offer no explanation. What I witnessed was beyond the laws of nature." Others followed. Neighbors came with lanterns, shopkeepers, farmers, all hoping to prove it was a hoax. But time and time again, they swore under oath that they saw objects fly through the air, furniture move on its own, Esther's skin carved with phantom scratches. Even police officers were called. One constable later testified that he saw a chair levitate and smash against the wall, and he insisted he could find no wires, no trickery. And the testimony just piled up. So the church cannot ignore the hysteria. Some ministers preached from the pulpit, listen, that Esther was possessed, a sinner punished for her vanity. One clergyman declared the devil was using her body as a stage to frighten the faithful. Others were more cautious. A few prayed over her, pleading for deliverance. They read psalms aloud while Esther convulsed, begging the spirit to depart. But instead of leaving, the spirit seemed to grow angrier. So during one prayer session, a booming voice filled the room, though no one's lips had moved, and the words were very clear. "Leave her be, she is mine." So the congregation recoiled in terror. From that day, many of the townsfolk believed no prayer, no sermon, no holy water could save Esther. She was cursed. So the press swarmed the story. Reporters from the Amherst Gazette wrote about unearthly manifestations. Halifax papers sent men to interview the family. Some arrived skeptical, expecting to expose a fraud. But when they found, it was harder to dismiss. One journalist described sitting in the tea parlor, notebook in hand, when he heard the sound of heavy boots pacing across the upstairs floorboards. No one was up there. Another reporter swore he saw a potato lift itself from a basket and hurled across the room, striking the wall with a sickening thud. So by the 1870s, spiritualism was already sweeping North America. Seances, mediums, but this was no parlor trick. These were violent, dangerous manifestations witnessed not just a few, but entire groups. And soon, a man named Walter Hubble would take the case into his own hands. So Walter Hubble was an actor by trade, the man of words and drama, but he also had a fascination with the supernatural. And when he had heard about Esther Cox, he packed his bags, traveled to Amherst, determined to see the truth for himself. So Hubble lived with the Teets for several weeks in the summer of 1879. He claimed he witnessed the full horror firsthand. In his later book, by the way, you can read the book. It's available. It's called The Great Amherst Mystery. It's a very good book. Amherst, The Great Amherst Mystery. Hubble described nights of absolute terror. And I'll tell you what he said in just a second. So for those of you who just, we always kind of stop at the top of the hour because there's a lot of people who are just tuning in. So welcome, everybody. I appreciate you being here. I'm Bishop James Long. We're talking about a poltergeist case that clearly turned demonic. And we're going to be going back into the conversation in just one moment. But first, I need everyone, if you would do me a favor and go to the sponsor's website, kgradb.com. Again, kgrad, D as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. And make sure you go to the website, click on the shop link. When you do that, click on my name. And it takes you to all of the shop on that page. Please purchase the items. 100% of the profit that I would make from KGRADB radio from selling these, we are donating that to the MKS Kids Foundation. They're an orphanage in Uganda that we are partnering with to help them out. And they're doing beautiful work. They are nonprofit. They're self-funded. So if you would, please go to KGRAD as in dog, B as in bicycle.com. Click on the shop link. And then my name, Bishop James Long. All right? And purchase those products, and that will be wonderful. We would appreciate that very, very much. So let's get back to the story. So he wrote a book called The Great Amherst Mystery. And Hubble described nights of absolute terror. He saw Esther's bedclothes ripped away from unseen hands. He heard voices whisper Esther's name in the darkness. He watched as nails were driven into wooden planks by no human hand. Again, the book is called The Great Amherst Mystery. So last name is Hubble. And on one occasion, Hubble said a table levitated into the air and turned over, crashing onto its side. Another night, a carving knife flew across the kitchen and stuck quivering into the wall. And he insisted Esther herself was terrified, not the instigator. And like others before him, Hubble heard the spirit's voice. It cursed him by name, warning him to leave the house or suffer. So by the time Hubble arrived, Esther's body was a canvas of torment. Scratches appeared daily. Bruises blossomed across her arms and legs. And once in full view of witnesses, a long gash opened across her arm, blood swelling up as if cut by invisible claws. Another time, she screamed in agony as her body swelled so violently that her skin looked close to bursting, then just suddenly deflated. Doctors were baffled. Some suggested hysteria. Others whispered about possession. Everyone agreed Esther was suffering. So Hubble began inviting outsiders to witness the events, hoping to document as much as possible. At times, dozens of townsfolk crammed into the Teed home, waiting breathlessly, for the spirit to act. And act it did. One night, while more than 20 people crowded into Esther's bedroom, a heavy trunk at the foot of the bed slid violently across the floor. Gasps filled the air. Before anyone could react, the trunk lifted and smashed against the wall. Another evening, witnesses watched as the spirit's message scratched itself into the plaster. Words appeared before their eyes, etched into the wall by something unseen. The message read, "Esther Cox, you are doomed." So the spirit's obsession with fire grew worse. So Hubble described a terrifying night when a curtain in the parlor suddenly ignited. The flames climbed fast, but were snuffed out before they spread, thankfully. Another night, Esther's dress began to smolder while she sat at the dinner table. She screamed as the family tore the garment from her body. The townsfolk began to murmur that Esther was a fire demon, cursed to bring flames wherever she went, blaming her. Farmers even barred her from their barns, terrified she would, set the hay alight just by standing near it. Esther could not escape her reputation. She was feared. She was shunned. And yet, even though she was shunned, people still could not look away because they wanted to be entertained. So the knocks became clearer. The voice grew stronger. It told Esther again and again that her days were numbered. At one point, the voice boomed out in front of half a dozen witnesses, and they claimed they heard, "Esther, you will die on this very night." So the family huddled around her, trembling, certain that they would watch her perish. Esther sobbed, clutching her sister's hand, waiting for death to strike. But when dawn came, she still lived. Exhausted, pale, shaken, but alive. The spirit had lied. Perhaps it was saving her for her later. This, my friends, is what you'd call demonic oppression and demonic obsession. This is why when you're talking about possession, the person has gone through so much trauma, not only physical trauma, but psychological trauma. It is breaking. This is what breaking your intellect and will means. It is breaking you down to the point where you can't fight anymore. So by now, Esther was more than a victim. She was a spectacle, a mystery. The baffled scientists, terrified ministers, enthralled the press. Thank you. And of course, the people loved it because they were being entertained. Let's pull out the popcorn. But the story was far from over, because what came next would drive Esther into even darker places. So this is the final and most terrifying phase of Esther's haunting. So by the summer of 1879, Esther Cox was the most feared young woman in Nova Scotia. She had lived through flames, bruises, blood, voices that promised her passing. She had been studied by doctors, prayed over by ministers, watched by crowds and journalists and strangers for entertainment purposes. But the haunting was not finished with her. If anything, it was only growing darker. So the family had endured enough. Night after night of screaming, fires, violence left them shaken and exhausted. Their home had become a public spectacle. And while the haunting threatening to destroy everyone around her, Esther agreed to leave. She went to stay with friends and relatives, hoping that this demon would stay behind. It didn't. At every new place, the same torment followed her. At a neighbor's farm, potatoes hurled across the kitchen. Her sister's Olive's house, boots stomped across empty floors. At another friend's cottage, raps, knocks echoed through the walls the moment Esther stepped inside. The truth became clear. Esther was not just a victim, she was the center. The haunting clung to her like a shadow. So Walter Hubble, the actor turned investigator, continued to document every detail. And he described one night in particular. Esther was lying weak in her bed, whispering a prayer, when the sound of scratching filled the room. Everyone froze. Slowly, letters carved themselves into the plaster wall. The words appeared as if drawn by invisible claws. Esther Cox, you are mine to unalive. The witness stared in horror. One woman fainted. Another ran, screaming from the house. Hubble stayed. And he later wrote that in all his travels and all his years of performance and showmanship, nothing ever equaled the dread that he felt in that moment. Then, strangely, there came a lull. Weeks passed where Esther was left in peace. She laughed again, visited friends, even dared to hope nightmare had ended. And this is what happens with demonic entities. It's like dangling that little carrot just to attack again. Peace was not what the spirit had in mind. So Esther took work with a local man named John White, and she hoped for a change of environment would bring change of fortune. For a short time, things seemed better. But then, in late 1879, disaster struck. A sudden fire broke out in the White's barn. It spread quickly, flames consuming wood and hay. Neighbors rushed to help, but the building was badly damaged. Whispers began immediately The townsfolk didn't ask how the fire started. They asked who, and their eyes all turned to Esther. So word spread that Esther had set the fire. Some said they saw her near the barn that day. Others muttered that wherever she went, fires started. So whether she had anything to do with it or not, the town was already ready to blame her, and the local magistrate charged her with arson. And the trial that followed was a sensation. The same girl, once thought to be the victim of the devil, was now treated as the devil's accomplice. Terrible. In court, Esther sat trembling as witnesses testified. They painted her as unstable, dangerous, a menace to the community, even though they had the audacity to do this, but they had no problem sitting here watching the show as it unfolded right before their eyes. So they saw the activity. Her defense was weak. She had no way to explain that the fires which plagued her life were the work of something unseen. The verdict? Guilty. So Esther, the haunted girl of Amherst, was sentenced to 4 months in jail. Imagine a thin, nervous young woman locked in a cold cell, surrounded by stone and iron. Some whisper that she deserved it, that she had faked the haunting all along, and now justice was finally served. Others pitied her, believing she had been punished for what she could never control. In the end, Esther served just 1 month before being released for good behavior, but by then the damage was already done. Her reputation was ruined. She would never again be free of suspicion. And after prison, Esther lived quietly. She moved away from Amherst, working here and there, thank you, marrying more than once, raising children of her own. And though she never again suffered the full terror of the Amherst haunting, she carried the scars with her. And in later years, she rarely spoke of it. Perhaps she wanted to forget it. Perhaps she knew that no one would ever believe her. She passed away in 1912 at the age of 52. But her story, her nightmare, lived on. So Walter Hubbell published his account in 1879, titled The Great Amherst Mystery. It was filled with chilling descriptions of what he claimed to witnesses. Now, skeptics accuse him of exaggeration, even fabrication. But the fact remains, dozens of people, from doctors to constables to ministers, swore under oath that they too had seen the phenomena. And to this day, no one has ever offered a satisfying explanation. Some say Esther was a fraud, a desperate young woman scarred by trauma, seeking attention. Others say she suffered from hysteria, a medical term of the era used to explain what doctors could not understand. But then, how do you explain the fires, the voices, the carvings on her skin that people saw? The truth may never be known. Picture it now. A dim little house in a quiet town of Nova Scotia. A pale young woman lying in bed, trembling as knocks echoed from the walls. The air thick with smoke from a fire that no one lit. And voice whispering in the dark, Esther Cox, you are mine to unalive. The Great Amherst Mystery remains one of the most terrifying unsolved hauntings in history. And whether you believe Esther was cursed, possessed, or simply broken by tragedy, one thing is certain. For years, something stalked her in the dark. Something that no prayer, no doctor, no prison could explain. And when you turn off the lights tonight, when you lay down in your bed, alone with your thoughts, ask yourself, is it true or not? All right, friends, what a terrible, terrible story, but true. And these are the stories that I love to present to you guys, because when you have this conversation, it is frightening. But based on, thank you very much. Thank you, MJC. For those of you who know it, I keep thinking of my friends there on TikTok are offering gifts. I think something happened. There were far too many people that experienced it. And because of that, I think there were also a lot of people that took advantage, which is a shame. Oh yeah, I do night prayer. Yeah, I do night prayer. Sister Tracy Ann does the rosary. So Sister Tracy Ann, she always prays the rosary. Please join her Monday through Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She's on TikTok, and she prays the rosary at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday. Okay? All right. No, we have some articles that we haven't got to. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the gifts. I appreciate them very much. Okay. So a lot of people prayed, "Where is God?" Here's what I believe, Jane. This is what I truly believe. Spiritualism at this time may... I will. I've talked about the Salem witch trials, but I'm going to be doing that in October when we get closer to Halloween. What I believe was, because spiritualism was so heavy during this time, there were a lot of seances. There were a lot of things that people were doing that they believed that, you know, they could communicate to the spirit world. And in my opinion, I think that I think this started as a poltergeist because of her trauma, which would explain the basic behavior that a poltergeist would start out as. But I think that people went in there and began doing seances and things of this nature to try to communicate, because they didn't understand poltergeist. Thank you. They didn't understand poltergeist at that time. And I think they thought they were trying to communicate with this poltergeist. And by having seances, conducting seances, I think people, spiritualists, brought in a demonic presence that attached itself to that negative energy. And I think that's what caused the demonic oppression. I do believe, based on what I read the book, based on what I have read and investigated, I've known about this case for quite some time. I do believe that she was under demonic oppression. But I think it also started as poltergeist. Remember, poltergeist means a noisy ghost. So thank you, Debbie. But it's not a ghost at all. Thank you, Michelle. It's not a ghost at all. It's a negative energy that someone is omitting. They've gone through extreme emotional trauma, and that energy is present. But it's not intelligent. There is no intellect behind the activity. So in my opinion, I think it started as a poltergeist. And I think because the spiritualism was so rampant at that time, people did some things they shouldn't have done, which caused it to, well, go really down the rabbit hole. So that's what I think. Well, eventually there was other activity, but it wasn't, thank you very much, Debbie. After she went to prison, they had other activity, but really we don't know a whole lot afterwards. Hubble writes a little bit about that, but I encourage you to read the book. It's a fascinating read. And he writes in great detail as well. But basically what I have, oh yeah, they broke her down, no question. But I think that's what happened. It started as poltergeist, and it ended with a actually demonic entity that was causing extreme oppression and obsession. This is why when you're performing an exorcism, thanks guys, when you're performing an exorcism, you have to be very careful. And I'll tell you why. The person who is possessed has gone through extreme trauma. Both emotional, psychological, spiritual. And when you're talking demonic obsession and oppression, the body is at an incredibly weakened state. And so the vulnerability, obviously the fear, is the body expiring. Because obviously we can only sustain so much. Thanks. So I think when you're performing an exorcism, this is why I always have someone who is medically trained to monitor the vitals of the possessed. Because I don't know if the person is having a heart attack or stroke. And so I need someone there to monitor. Now, it is frightening for them too. And so when I speak to the individual that is medically trained, it doesn't have to be a doctor, but someone, CMT, I mean, somebody who is certified, they are fully aware that by being present, they're putting themselves at risk. And there are times I've had in my 33 exorcisms that I performed, there was one time that the person who was there, I had two people, and the person who was, monitoring the vitals, making sure the person, the heart rate was good. And during the exorcism, the person started like a guttural growl, and it was a deep, really deep, unnatural growl. And the eyes were closed, and he was checking the heart rate, checking the pulse. And the person opened their eyes. It was all white. It was all white, like a zombie looking thing. That freaked him out so much that he went back, almost fell. And he said, I'm done. I can't. And he left. So those things can occur, but these are all parlor tricks to try to frighten you, to terrify you. Obviously, he's not prepared. He wasn't prepared. I told him, the eyes could go black. You could smell sulfur. There could be a rotten odor. There could be a temperature change. There could be growls. You could hear bangs. You're going to have these activities. And so when you do, you need to be kind of prepared for them. You can tell somebody that, but when you're actually in the room and the hairs are standing on the back of your neck, and you know that you're in the room with something very evil, and then the person opened their eyes, you're thinking that you're going to see, pupils, but solid white. Well, that really, he was not in. That was it. And I was lucky that I had two people that were certified. They were medically certified to check the vitals. And so the other person was a little bit more brave, but I get it. It's a frightening situation. Yeah. Is there a prayer? There is a prayer for like curses. You can do a memorized prayer, but you can I believe this. I'm a firm believer in St. Michael. So, the St. Michael prayer. The St. Michael is a shorter form. There's a longer form and a shorter form prayer. Okay, MJC, I'll answer that in just 1 second. So the St. Michael prayer, the shorter form, St. Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the malice and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who wander through the earth seeking the ruin of souls. So you can pray that prayer. There's a longer form, but the shorter form is just fine. The demonic possesses the body, not the soul. So if a person expires under the stage of possession, which could occur, Annalise McKell, Emily Rose, she passed away because she was 68 pounds when she passed away. And she was an adult. But the demons possess the body, not the soul. Okay? So how do I prepare and protect myself? Oh, Lisa, there's usually a 2-week preparation of fasting and prayer. I do the daily office anyway. And the daily office, I pray 5 times a day. There's a wonderful app, by the way. For those of you who don't know, it's called the Divine Office. Let me show you. I'll show this for you. And I pray this 5 times a day. I'm also many people don't know, I'm a Benedictine monk. So I've taken vows as a Benedictine monk. And so I pray the office. Now, there's more than just 5 times, but I minimum, I do 5 times. This is the app. It's fantastic. It's called the Divine Office. Okay. That's what it looks like. And this is a beautiful, beautiful app, and I'll tell you why. You don't have to have anything. You don't need to do anything. All you need to do is open the app. So I'll show you guys. So as an exorcist, I pray the daily office every single day. And, oh, come on, not now. Just stop. I'll show you guys what it does. It is a fantastic app, by the way. I encourage you. Yeah, a lot of people, it's very simple. I'll show you, Donna. I'll show you in just 1 second. So there is, Elisa, there is a form of prayer and there's a fasting. We already know about the case, so we've already led up to this. So we try to make sure that, we limit our exposure to people, the crowds, because I don't want to get sick, obviously. You can catch, COVID or a flu or something like that beforehand. So you certainly don't want to do that. But this is what I'll show you. So let me open up the app. Okay. So I've already prayed these. And so you can kind of get an idea. That's why there's the check marks means that you've already prayed them. So that's what it looks like here when you open up the Divine Office. But what you do is, that just really brightened up, and that was interesting. So what you do is Office of Reading, like morning prayer or evening prayer. You just click on the evening prayer and you can open it up. And you can even hear it. See that? So you follow along. You don't need anything.
God, come to my assistance.
And then you, oh Lord, make haste to help me. This is what the app looks like. One more time, I'll show you. There it is. It says Divine Office. I know it's backwards. Free. Divine Office. This is what we pray at night. So Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we pray night prayer. It's also known as Compline. That's the official term, Compline. But that's what we pray every Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we gather as a community. We pray for your prayer petitions. And that's, again, Monday through Friday. But anyway, it's free. You don't need to know how to do it. Because the script is already there. The script is there for you. So there you go. What can I do before the dog comes home here? Donna, I have no idea what you're referring to. Keep in mind that I have two computers and I have a lot of chats here and a lot of chats here. So I have multiple guys. Come on. Divine Office. Divine Office. Moderators, if you can just, so moderators, if you can just put that in there, Divine Office. So there we go. If a soul can be possessed, bodies are possessed, the soul doesn't belong to demons. Now, do I believe that you can reject heaven? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. I do not believe that heaven is forced upon anyone. We know that free will exists in heaven. We know this because if free will didn't exist, then Satan could not have fallen. So, and Satan was in heaven when he fell. So therefore, we know that free will exists. I think heaven is presented. I do not think that heaven is forced upon anyone. That would be completely contrary to the whole point of free will. No. Again, I'm going to say this clear. Demons do not possess the soul. Demons possess the body. And here's why. Number one, the body, this is very important to understand why possession exists. Remember, Paul talks about that we are the living temple of the Holy Spirit. So therefore, if we are the living temple of the third person of the Trinity, then demons want to possess the body, to desecrate the living temple of the Holy Spirit. We are we're children of God. So to desecrate the body is to also desecrate the imago of Yahweh, the image of God. And that is their point, to desecrate the image of God, to desecrate the living temple of the Holy Spirit. There are people that will try to convince you to pray for demons, to try that they are able to change demons' perspective. That is incorrect. That is theologically absolutely erroneous. Demons don't want your prayers. And remember, if you think for some reason that you're going to pray over a demon and a demon is going to say, well, now that was a good point. I think I'll go ahead and follow God. And they were in the presence of God and they still freely chose to reject him. So the idea that you think that you're going to somehow say words that's going to change their mind is absurd just on face value. So, okay. All right. Yeah, sure. No problem there. Lisa. Yeah, I would encourage you to download the app. It's a great, again, you just follow the script. You don't have to, and just, it plays and you don't have to do anything. It also plays reflection songs. And there we go. Some people think that, they're going to change the idea or change the perspective of a demon. And somehow they're going to convince the demon to turn back to God. That doesn't happen. So that's it. That is just completely incorrect. And it's just not, no. All right. By the way, if you guys want also to listen to the music that I have that I own, you're certainly more than welcome to do so. You can go to bishopjameslong.com. If you go to bishopjameslong.com, and I wrote some music, and so you just scroll down, and it says here, all songs are copyrighted. Enjoy. Click here to listen. You click there, and it's on SoundCloud. And all the songs that I've created, Mr. Producer's created some songs from my understanding as well. But you can go on over there and enjoy if you like. Okay. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I think I don't know what's going on with SoundCloud, but I'll have to look at it, so I don't know. Is it true that Satan? Yes, absolutely, Starla. No question. Because Satan offers you a crossless life. Satan convinces you that you don't need suffering, you don't need a struggle, that there's no reason for you to struggle, and that he will offer you a crossless life, but ultimately he offers you lies. And that's all he offers you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, sometimes the devil allows people to live a life without trouble because he doesn't want them turning to God. So their sin is like a jail cell. Seems all nice and comfy. There's no need to leave. The door's wide open until one day the time runs out. The cell door shuts, and suddenly it's too late. So you need to be very, very careful. And you got to remember, I want everyone to understand this. Is God a part of your life, or is God the center of your life? There's a difference. And when some things are a part of your life, that means that there are other parts of your life that are not important or that's not present. Going to church once a week at Sunday doesn't make God the center of your life. It makes God a part of your week. And praying for a meal is nice, but that doesn't necessarily make God the center of your life. It makes them part of your day. So when that makes God the center of your life, that's the question. What makes God the center of your life? It's when in every situation you think of God and pleasing God with whatever decision you make in life. When you do not give God full authority over your life, then you give the devil a chance for robbery. And that is the God's honest truth. All right. Now let me go into, for those of you, by the way, for those of you who don't know, we talked about this the other day. The house that we all know, very, very interesting situation. This is by Marija. A piece of paranormal history is going up for auction this Halloween. How to do what? I keep you got to give me the full sentence, because remember, I have multiple chats open, so I don't know what you're referring to. Donna, was it Donna or Donna? Just give me one sentence so that I can figure out what you're asking. Because just parts of a sentence, I have no idea what you're referring to because I'm juggling so many different chats. All right. So fall is here. It's officially spooky season. It's a piece of paranormal history is going up for auction this Halloween. So as soon as September 1st hits, which it has, it's about Halloween time. Some people will wait for fall to arrive, but it's fun season. So let's jump right in. What makes the Conjuring series so terrifying is that it isn't just another made-up Hollywood ghost story. It's actually rooted in real events. So the movies are inspired by the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Those of you who know me know that I was friends with Lorraine. I did not know Ed. But back in 1971, the Perron family moved into the 19th century farmhouse in Rhode Island, and there they reported a series of chilling encounters with spirits. And as things continued, renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine were called in to study the case. And it said they conducted a seance in hopes of cleansing the home. Well, this, of course, is the home that inspired the very popular movie franchise. And the house is now going up for auction on Halloween. So if you have, I don't know, $1.5 million or something in the bank, you might want to consider, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, purchasing the house. Andrea, by the way, she's a friend of mine, and she has a show here on KGRADB. She lived in the house. I tell people this all the time. If you really want to know what happened in the Conjuring house, then buy her books. She grew up there. It's House of Darkness, House of Light. It's a 3-part series. They are fantastic. Andrea Perron, Perron. So I encourage you, if you really are interested in the whole Conjuring franchise, get the books. You're gonna read it from her perspective. She remembers pretty much everything. And thank you there, Donna. She remembers a lot. And so she's having some health issues. So let's continue to pray for her, certainly. And but House of Darkness, House of Light. If you really want to know, then purchase her books. And by the way, I also encourage you to purchase books from a good friend of mine, Jason McLeod. Jason McLeod, he actually studied under the Perrons. Under the Warrens. And how you spell his last name is MacLeod. Jason McLeod. A very cool person. Yep. I'm sorry, MacLeod. It is the Dark Siege. They're called Dark Siege. MacLeod, yeah. And so I encourage you, if you have not, go to his site. It's called darksiege.com. And he is a friend of mine. And these books are fantastic. They are cases that he worked. And I'm telling you, I promise you guys, listen to me carefully when I say this. If you buy these books, you will not want to put them down. I read the first book, Dark Siege, and let me tell you something. I had such a difficult time putting the book down. The way he writes, it's like you can picture this. It's like a movie. It's amazing. It is amazing. And the other book he has is also very intense. It is a continuation. But I encourage you, make sure you pick up the books. So it's Dark Siege, and I think you're going to really enjoy them. As a matter of fact, I've endorsed them. And he has a part 2, Dark Siege: The Nightmare Returns. And this really has a succubus situation. So what is the name of it? What is the name of it? Just the St. Michael prayer? No. Yeah, I used to have I'm going to have to put like a book list together again. But Dark Siege, DarkSiege.com. Get the books. Get them. I promise you, you will not regret it. He is such a brilliant writer. And I encourage, if you guys know, I wish a movie producer would contact him. They need to, because this case needs to be in the movies. It is just that brilliantly written. Thank you, Billy. So, okay. Right. And the books are more accurate. Right. Okay. For those of you who like space, very quickly, I want to talk. I have a good friend of mine who is an astronaut. I went to high school with him, and it's pretty neat. He was always one of those really smart guys. But this is by T.K. Randall, Artemis 2, a manned lunar mission. This is exciting. A manned lunar mission is set to launch in February of 2026. So a crew of 4 astronauts will embark on a 10-day trip around the moon at the beginning of next year. It's finally happening. More than 50 years after the last human set foot on the lunar surface, NASA's Artemis program is finally about to send astronauts back to the moon. Now, while Artemis 2 won't actually land on the surface, that's going to be the next mission after this one, the flight will see a crew of 4 astronauts spend over a week in space to test out all the new technology. Says, we together have a front row seat to history, said NASA's acting deputy associate. And the launch window could open as early as the 5th of February, but we want to emphasize that safety is our top priority. The astronauts going on the mission will be NASA's Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, as well as Jeremy Hansen, the Canadian Space Agency. And they will be the first humans to venture beyond near-Earth orbit since 1972. They're going to go at least 5,000 nautical miles past the moon, which is much higher than previous missions have gone. So this is pretty cool. And so if Artemis 2 is successful, that will pave the way for Artemis 3, the actual manned moon landing, which should take place sometime before the end of the decade. But nonetheless, there you go. For those of you who are big into space, it looks like a lot of people ask, why we haven't gone back to the moon. Well, to be honest with you, NASA and the government, we know the argument is we landed, it's very costly, and they wanted to focus a lot of their budget on the space shuttle. The space shuttle was very expensive. So you got to remember, after when the rockets, during that time, the 60s and early 70s, it was time to retire, the rockets that they were using, and to start investing heavily into the space shuttle program. The space shuttle program was unbelievably costly, very expensive, but they had to do this because you have also the International Space Station. So that was the goal, was to then begin this International Space Station to have more satellites in space, and that became the primary goal. Going to the moon kind of lost its luster because the argument is we beat the Russians there. So therefore, because it's so costly, that they wanted to allocate those funds to the space shuttle program and to the International Space Station. That makes sense on a logical side, but I know there's a lot of naysayers out there. I get it. But nonetheless, that is a logical explanation as to perhaps why we have not gone back. Okay. So I know there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that say we never landed on the moon. But here's the deal: what a lot of people don't know, you can actually see the Voyager. You can see several of the aircraft, or the craft that was there. You can see other things that were there. So that we now have telescopes that are strong enough to where you can actually see it. You can even see the tracks. So you're right. So I get it. I understand the naysayers, but at the same time, I think that there could have been something there. No question. All right. Yeah, I don't want to do this. I'm trying to. I want to see which one I want to do here. The last thing. Oh, by the way, this is crazy. Listen to this. If you've not seen the show Westworld, now that is an adult-oriented show. I'm going to tell you now. It's called Westworld. Kids should not watch this. TK Randall writes this. This new super realistic robot face is straight out of Westworld. A firm in China has developed human-like faces for robots that are eerily realistic, capable of expressing emotions. So a future dominated by lifelike humanoid robots has taken one step closer to reality this week, following the release of a new video showcasing a state-of-the-art robot face. Developed by Chinese firm Ahead Form, the face is able to express subtle emotions, looks so realistic, it's almost good enough to fool someone into thinking that it is a real person. I've seen the video. Watch it. It says not too difficult to imagine future humanoid robots using this type of facial technology. The only head version of a head form Origin M1 is a face robot designed for research, interaction, and high-end display scenarios. It integrates a full facial actuation system with up to 25 micro motors, enabling lifelike expressions, blinking, and eye movements. Embedded RGB cameras inside the pupils provide visual perception, while built-in microphones and speakers support real-time audio interaction. You need to take a look at this. It's called Ahead. Would you go on a tube to the U? Ahead Form Origin M1. It is, I have to say, it is very interesting. Okay, for those of you who are listening to this on podcast, we want to say thank you for being with us, and hopefully that you all have a wonderful and beautiful evening. Let me close this up. Okay. Remember, folks, I want to remind everybody that tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to come right back on air for our night prayer. And hopefully you'll join us. We'd love for you guys to be there with us. If not, I understand. Completely no problems. And we'll be here Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on TikTok only for Mass. We'll have liturgy in the private chapel. And then 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Bible study. TikTok, stay with me. I'll stay with you guys for a little bit longer. For those of you on all the other social media platforms, remember, I tell you all the time, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You are priceless, and don't let anybody tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night.